Archaeologists usually find historical items that help answer questions, but sometimes they uncover things that leave us more puzzled. From tiny coffins to oracle bones, here are the 20 most mysterious finds made by archaeologists. Number 20. Vampire burials in Northamptonshire. In 1991, archaeologists in Northamptonshire were baffled by a rather grim discovery while excavating a site. Archaeologists discovered a buried skeleton facing down. Now, that's not really the most horrifying part. It's the fact that the man's tongue was most likely cut and replaced with a flat stone. It was believed that the man was one of the many people accused of being a vampire. You see, it's not uncommon for archaeologists to discover remains that have some rather horrifying rituals done upon them. In Poland, several remains have been found to have stones in their mouths or shackles on their feet to prevent them from being able to come back from the dead and victimize the living. The man likely experienced the same treatment upon his death, due to people's irrational fear of the undead. However, this was the first time archaeologists observed the ritual of replacing the tongue with a flat stone. This leads to many questions about the burial rituals done by people who lived in the region centuries ago. Number 19. Arthur's Seat Miniature Coffin. In 1836, a group of young boys were hunting for rabbits on the slopes of Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh when they stumbled upon something horrifying: 17 miniature coffins. These small, creepy coffins were discovered deep within a small cave that was hidden behind some slate slabs. Bewildered, they decided to let the adults know about their bizarre discovery. Needless to say, even the elders were perplexed by what they found. Aside from the eerie appearance of the small wooden coffins, each one also contained equally eerie dolls. The kids claimed that when they were found, each coffin was neatly placed on top of each other. The majority of them measured a mere 95 millimeters in length. They were all made of wood, and the figures inside had custom-made clothes stitched and glued around them. Today, only 8 of these coffins have survived, all on display in the National Museum of Scotland. Now, what could these coffins possibly be? Tools for a satanic spell, superstitious charm, toys that have been left forgotten. To this day, we're not entirely sure. Some believe that the coffins and the figures were meant to honor people who have perished in a distant land, people whose lives have been taken away unexpectedly, that it was impossible to entomb them back to Edinburgh. Others, however, believe that the real story behind these dolls is something more sinister. In 1906, a bizarre story about the coffins was published. The story goes that a lady residing in Edinburgh had a father, whom we'll call John, who was often visited by a, and I quote, dark man. On one occasion, she claimed that this man showed her father a drawing depicting 3 small coffins with the dates 1837, 1838, and 1840 on them. Initially, they dismissed it as mere nonsense until individuals known to his father started dying in the years following the dark man's writings. It was almost as if he predicted their deaths, or perhaps even caused them. In 1837, John's near relative died. The following year, his cousin died, and finally, in 1840, his brother died. Anguished, John drove away the man when he visited him again. Many believe that this man was the one who created these figures. Whether this is a simple tale or not, I'll let you be the judge. Number 18. Mystery of the Land of Punt. Although ancient Egypt is arguably the most renowned and intriguing ancient civilization in history, it also needed to rely on another nation or settlement in the past. After deciphering hieroglyphics, thanks to the Rosetta Stone, a mysterious kingdom has been observed by archaeologists in ancient Egyptian records, the Land of Punt. The Land of Punt has been referred to in ancient Egyptian records for over 1,000 years, most notably during the Middle Kingdom and the New Kingdom periods. It was known as the Land of Gods, a place of riches and rare resources. The Egyptians described it as a region of incense, gold, ebony, ivory, and wild animals like leopards and giraffes, highly prized in Egypt for their exotic nature and value. Funnily enough, despite the extensive records about the richness and extravagance of this land, its location was never documented or revealed. Scholars have speculated it might have been situated somewhere along the Red Sea coast, possibly in what is now modern-day Eritrea, Ethiopia, Somalia, or even parts of Yemen. However, none of these theories have been definitively proven. Number 17. Plutos Gate, the underworld portal. Nestled in the ancient ruins of Hierapolis, now modern-day Pamukkale in Turkey, is a site known as the Plutonium at Hierapolis, or Plutos Gate. This ancient temple was said to be a portal to the underworld in Greek and Roman mythology, a place that was both feared and revered by the ancients. This site was first discovered in 2013 by a team led by Italian archaeologist Francesco D'Andrea, who uncovered the remains of a temple, a pool, and a series of steps above a cave. As years went by, the reputation of this place grew more grim. Aside from the myth and lore of the passageway, disappearances were also often associated with this doorway. They claimed that those who ventured near this place failed to return. However, scientists have a theory that might explain the grim reputation of this passageway. You see, it was believed that the plutonium at Hierapolis emits toxic gases, which, in ancient times, were considered the breath of the underworld god Pluto. These vapors are so lethal that even today, birds flying too close to the ruins can be killed by the toxic fumes. The ancients, fully aware of its deadly properties, believed the site to be a passage to the underworld, guarded by the god Pluto himself. Perhaps it's for this reason that, to this day, this entryway is still avoided by many locals, fearing it would claim their lives. Number 16. Oklo, the natural nuclear reactor. Meet Oklo, known as the world's first nuclear reactor. And yes, Oklo is over 1.8 billion years old. In 1942, the world's first reactor was created, but Oklo, well, this natural nuclear reactor has been working before humanity's scientific advancement. This ancient reactor first captured the attention of researchers in the 1970s. Scientists studying uranium mines in the area noticed something peculiar. The uranium-238 isotope levels were unusually low. Now, for those who might not be nuclear physicists, uranium-235 is essential for nuclear fission. It's what today's nuclear reactors use to generate power. Typically, uranium-235 makes up about 0.72% of natural uranium, but in these samples from Oklo, it was only about 0.77%. That slight difference set off a huge investigation. Approximately 1.8 billion years ago, long before humans were around, several natural nuclear reactors operated in what is now Oklo. Naturally, this sparked rumors and conspiracy theories about aliens touching down on our planet before we even existed. However, researchers claimed that that's not the case. Rather than something artificial, this 1.8 billion-year-old reactor formed naturally. Experts believe that Oklo resulted from the high concentration of uranium-235 at the time, more specifically 3% higher, but this was enough to sustain a nuclear chain reaction. So how did it work? I won't get into the nitty-gritty. Let's just say that the conditions at Oklo were just right. Even so, it was still a mystery just how this astounding reactor came to be naturally when it took human centuries to develop. Number 15. Cooch Stone, ancient rock art. Located near Glasgow, Scotland, the Cooch Stone is a large sandstone slab measuring 42 feet by 26 feet. This stone slab was discovered in 1887, and it immediately garnered the attention of archaeologists for the cup and ring marks surrounding it. These are a series of concentric circles and indentations pecked into the rock surface. Many historians and archaeologists were immediately eager to learn the meaning behind them. Unfortunately, studying the Cooch Stone was a tough thing to pursue. Despite being unearthed in 1887, the artifact was again buried to protect it from vandalism and further damage. It wasn't until 2016 that it was temporarily unearthed for study and recording purposes. During its brief resurfacing, researchers used modern technology like 3D imaging to record and study the carvings in incredible detail. This digital mapping has opened new avenues for interpretation and understanding, providing a digital lifeline to preserve its legacy. Today, while the Cooch Stone remains buried to protect it, the debate and research continue regarding what its carvings signify and how to best preserve such an important piece of history. Number 14. Hittite Lion statues of Anatolia. Around the mid-1300s BCE, Hattusa in Anatolia, now known as modern Turkey, was dominated by the Hittites. These people were an ancient group of Indo-Europeans who moved into Asia Minor and formed an empire in the rich lands. Aside from their famous skill in building chariots and manufacturing and using iron, they seem to have another lesser-known trait, their bizarre fascination with lions. Recently, archaeologists have begun seeing stone lion statues scattered throughout Turkey. Lions have been symbols of power and majesty across numerous cultures, and in ancient Turkey, this was no different. The lion statues we're talking about today are believed to date back thousands of years and are thought to have served as guardians. These statues are believed to have stood guard at important gateways or temples, serving as protectors and symbols of the ruler's power. The details of these statues, however, have puzzled and fascinated experts because of how well they were made. Number 13. The Perforated Roman Jar. It might sound counterintuitive, but this jar, created thousands of years ago around the Roman times, around the 1st to 4th century AD, was deliberately filled with holes. This jar, riddled not only with holes but also with mystery, is now stored at a Canadian museum. To this day, we're still unsure as to why this vase was created in the first place. Initially, The vase was found shattered into an unrecognizable 180 pieces until it was pieced back together slowly by experts. Experts became more perplexed about the artifact after piecing it back together. Why would a vessel typically used for seeds and water have holes? Anyway, we have our theories today. The general consensus is that these vases were used for cooking. These perforated jars were likely used much like a modern-day colander or steamer. It might seem like an impractical colander because of how large it is, but in ancient times, where big batches of food were often made, this vase was a practical tool. Number 12. Mystery of Linear A. Are you interested in decoding and deciphering? If you are, then perhaps you'll finally be the person to crack the confusing code of Linear A. Linear A is a script that was used more than 3,500 years ago by the Minoans, the earliest known civilization in Europe, which flourished on the island of Crete during the Bronze Age. This script is made up of hundreds of symbols, each representing either a syllable or a word, kind of like a cross between modern Japanese and ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. But that being said, you can only imagine just how confusing it is. That's why, unlike its successor, Linear B, which has already been deciphered back in the 1950s, Linear A remains unsolved to this day. It's been over a century since we've encountered this form of writing, but we're still stumped about how to read or decipher it. Linear B was a monumental script to unlock on its own, but Linear A is on an entirely new level because it doesn't appear to be like any other language. Linear B was deciphered because it was a script similar to Greek. We also have no idea what language the Minoans spoke, so we're in the dark about this. So far, experts have found Linear A inscriptions on various artifacts, including clay tablets, vessels, and seals. This means the script was reserved for economic and administrative purposes, which might be another reason there's so little information or trace about this script. Some scholars suggest that the Minoan language could be related to ancient Anatolian languages, or even to the Etruscan civilization in Italy. Others think it might be unique, unrelated to any known language group. It seems that until we discover more artifacts or scripts relating to Linear A, the script will remain undeciphered. Number 11. Litam, submerged Neolithic village. About 40 feet beneath the Mediterranean Sea is a mysterious stone arrangement predating Stonehenge, the Litam. Discovered in 1984, this site dates back around 9,000 years, placing it at the end of the last ice age. This means that the site where it's located, which is now submerged in water, was once an accessible piece of land. This prehistoric site includes well-preserved structures, including stone houses and a mysterious stone circle that some have dubbed the Stonehenge of the Levant. Litam was a treasure trove of archaeological treasures with many tools around its vicinity, and even had the remains of plants and animals that once thrived in the area. However, this formation is more than just a stone circle. One of the most striking discoveries at Litam is the evidence of advanced practices like agriculture and animal domestication, which predate many known developments of such activities in the region. There were grain storage pits filled with wild barley, wheat, and legumes, showing that these people were among the first to transition from hunting and gathering to farming. But perhaps the most touching and human aspect of Litam are the graves. More than 65 human remains have been discovered, enabling researchers to study the area's past inhabitants. Number 10. The Cooch, Jordan's ancient wall. Spanning about 93 miles, the Cooch is a stone wall that stretches through the sandy deserts of Jordan. This ancient linear structure is believed to have been constructed sometime in the 1st century AD. However, those responsible for its construction remain a mystery. Some theories suggest the Nabateans built it, the same people who carved the famous city of Petra into the cliffs of southern Jordan. But unlike Petra, the purpose of Cooch is not so clear. The wall itself is pretty low, rarely more than a few feet high, and it doesn't seem like it would be a sound and formidable defensive barrier. This peculiarity leads to all sorts of speculations. Some historians believe it may have served as a boundary marker, delineating lands or tribal territories. However, some think it might have been used to control the movements of animals or even as a checkpoint for trade routes, helping regulate commerce and taxes in ancient times. Despite its fascinating presence, the Cooch hasn't received as much attention as other ancient structures in the region, partly because it's not as visually dramatic as, say, a towering pyramid or a vast temple. Perhaps that's why, to this day, only those dedicated to the area's history are interested in unraveling its secrets. Number 9. Ancient board game unearthed in Oman. If there's one thing humanity seems to share, it's our love of board games. It appears that since ancient times, humanity has been interested in gaming. In 2022, archaeologists unearthed a 4,000-year-old board game from the Bronze Age during an excavation in Oman. The team of experts from the Polish Center of Mediterranean Archaeology at the University of Warsaw and the Ministry of Heritage and Tourism of the Sultanate of Oman has been studying the area since 2015, with one region being the Camara Valley, proving to be a place where archaeological artifacts can be found. Experts believe that the area has been occupied since 4300 to 4000 BCE. However, the most recent archaeological discoveries date from 1100 to 600 BCE. The board game archaeologists found was made entirely of stone and had markings and cup holes. Unfortunately for us, we're yet to figure out just how people in the past played this board game. Given that it was discovered during the Bronze Age, the rules for this game were most likely incredibly simple. At a time when the internet didn't exist and even getting food could be a life-threatening task, I'm sure that this board game gave people back then a welcome respite. Number 8. Dogu figurines, enigmatic artifacts of Japan. These are the Dogu figurines, many of which have been found in Japan. These curious humanoid figurines are believed to have been created during the Jomon period in Japan, from 14,000 to 400 BCE. Dogu come in various shapes and sizes, but they often feature elaborate and exaggerated female forms with detailed eyes, waists, and limbs. Some of the most distinctive ones are known as shikoki dogu, or goggle-eyed figures, which have heart-shaped faces and large bulging eyes that resemble modern goggles. To this day, we're unsure what these figures really symbolize. These figurines are often found broken, which has led some to suggest that they were ritually destroyed after serving their purpose, which could have been to ward off illness or misfortune. However, some believe that the exaggerated features of the Dogu allude to their role as gods and goddesses of fertility. Number 7. Phaistos Disc Mystery. In 1908, archaeologists excavating the Minoan palace site of Phaistos on the island of Crete discovered a clay disc that measured about 16 centimeters in diameter, with both of its sides covered with a spiral of stamped symbols. Archaeologists believe it dates back to around 1700 BC, placing it squarely in the middle of the Bronze Age. The disc features 241 tokens comprising 45 unique symbols, including figures such as humans, animals, plants, and geometric shapes. Archaeologists believe that the symbols on the Phaistos disc are some form of writing, possibly an early attempt to print text, as each symbol was stamped onto the clay using pre-made interchangeable stamps. This makes the Phaistos disc one of the earliest known examples of movable type printing technology, predating the Gutenberg printing press by over 3,000 years. However, we're clueless about the message or symbol stamped on the Phaistos disc. Despite numerous attempts, no one has definitively cracked the code. Theories about the disc's content range from it being a religious text, a calendar, a game, or even an ancient storytelling device. Some believe that the disc talks about a story of a goddess who is with child. This goddess is believed to be Astarte, the goddess of love. However, the story remains a mystery to this day. Each symbol's meaning and the overall message of the disc remain a mystery. Some scholars even suggest it might be a hoax, but most believe it to be genuine and perhaps a unique document that doesn't relate to other known writing systems. What's made the Phaistos disc more bizarre is the fact that no other object bearing similar inscriptions has ever been found. This uniqueness has made decipherment particularly challenging, as there is no context or comparison to draw from. Number 6. Hypogeum of Halseini, ancient acoustic marvel. In 1902, construction workers stumbled upon what would be known as one of the most remarkable UNESCO World Heritage Sites in the world, the Hypogeum of Halseini. This subterranean structure dates back to about 4000 BC, making this wonderful structure over 6,000 years old, more specifically, one of the oldest religious sites on the planet. Originally, it was a sanctuary, but it eventually became a necropolis with remains of over 7,000 individuals discovered during its excavation in the early 20th century. All 3 levels of the Hypogeum were carved entirely out of limestone using antlers and stones. This alone makes the Hypogeum an impressive place of worship, covering a staggering 5,300 square feet. This religious site could accommodate 7,000 individuals, or rather remains, as subsequent excavations revealed skeletons and human remains, making the Hypogeum not only a place of worship but also a graveyard. Each level of the Hypogeum has different halls, chambers, and passages. The walls are smoothly finished, and some rooms are elaborately decorated with red ochre spirals and patterns. But perhaps the most astounding feature of the Hypogeum is the oracle room. Before modern civilization mastered the acoustics of places of worship, the people who built the Hypogeum did it first. You see, if you speak in this chamber, your voice is amplified and heard throughout the entire complex. Archaeologists believe that this might have been used for rituals or for communicating with the divine, enhancing the voices of priests or chanters. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. An amateur archaeologist in Egypt was excavating an old tomb when he stumbled upon this rusted old metal glove. With its appearance alone, it looked like something that didn't seem to be from the ancient Egyptian civilization. The glove looked more like it was part of an intricate battle armor from an older civilization, with clawed and sharp edges. Intrigued, the archaeologist decided to study the glove more closely. It seemed, however, that it was the wrong decision. Shortly after obtaining the glove, he began experiencing bizarre things. He claimed that shortly after obtaining the glove, he started hearing and seeing things that weren't there. Did the archaeologist discover what no one was meant to see? After all, ancient Egypt is known for its curses that protect its tombs and artifacts. Did another archaeologist disturb what was meant to be left alone? Or could this be another coincidence? Let me know what you think in the comments. Number 5. Sacsayhuaman, Inca engineering marvel. On the northern outskirts of Cusco, Peru, is a citadel called Sacsayhuaman. This place is the historic capital of the Inca Empire, located at an altitude of 12,142 feet. This curious location contains some of the most bewildering stonework left behind by the Inca. The site is famous for its massive, tightly interlocking stones that create a formidable fortress wall, with some rocks weighing as much as 200 tons. Yes, you heard that right, 200 tons. However, their weight isn't the only impressive thing about these stones. You see, they're fitted together so well and so exact that not even a piece of paper can slide between them, and they've stood the test of time without the use of mortar. Archaeologists and engineers are still puzzled by how the Incas managed such precise cuts and placements of these gigantic stones. Upon looking at these stones, it almost seemed as if each one was measured and cut precisely by modern machinery. So far, there are several theories trying to explain how they were formed. Some believe that the Incas softened the stone using a mysterious liquid that we have yet to discover. This softener was either derived from a plant or a sun mirror. Whatever it is, we're not entirely sure. The fact that the heaviest of these stones would have required hundreds of men astounds scientists to this day. Number 4. Judic Rock, a Cherokee mystery. If you're from Jackson County in North Carolina, perhaps you're already familiar with Judic Rock. This massive soapstone boulder is known for the many inscriptions it contains. These carvings, covered in mysterious symbols, geometric patterns, and figures, are believed to be over 2,000 years old and are thought to be the work of the Cherokee people. But aside from the inscriptions it contains, it's also known for the legend it's associated with. According to Cherokee legend, Judicula was a mighty giant who ruled the mountains. It was said that the carvings on the rock are the marks of his slanted, seven-fingered hand, rather than ordinary inscriptions. Perhaps that's also the reason why, to this day, we're still unsure as to whether these carvings were created by ancient settlers in the area or merely created by natural weathering and erosion. What's more, there's also a possibility that these inscriptions were faked. For the Cherokee people, the Judic Rock will forever remain a cultural symbol. However, for researchers and archaeologists, this slab presents them with a confusing puzzle. Today, you can visit Judic Rock and see this incredible piece of history. So, what do you think the symbols mean? Are they just artistic expressions? Or could they be telling us stories much deeper and more significant? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Number 3. Herbet Face, Amazon's sacred rock. Deep within the lush rainforest of the Amazon is the Herbet Face, also known as Rostro Herbet. It's known for one thing, the fact that it looks just like a human face. For so long, archaeologists and historians have debated whether this rock was deliberately carved by settlers in the area or by nature itself. If you ask the Herbet people, an indigenous group from this region, this rock is sacred and divine. For them, this human-shaped rock represents the forest spirit, which watches over their people and the natural world around them. Unfortunately, the area where the Herbet stone is has been plagued with illegal mining and deforestation, leading to people worrying about its safety. After all, we're yet to learn whether it's a natural feature or a deliberate creation, but with the area's destruction looming, this feature may be destroyed before we can get our answer. Number 2. Danish gold spirals, ancient religious adornments. Now, I'm not talking about pastry, but rather gold spirals. The Danish gold spirals were small, elongated pieces of gold that usually measured a few millimeters long. Strangely enough, many of these spirals were found across Denmark, usually along with hoards, most likely buried thousands of years ago around 900 to 700 BCE. For so long, experts were perplexed as to what these gold spirals were. However, now many of them theorize that these delicate pieces were part of a lavish costume or adornments attached to cloth that perhaps priests or other high-status individuals wore during religious ceremonies. Gold is one of the few materials that doesn't tarnish or corrode, often used for objects meant for the gods and the divine. Its spiral shape is also said to represent the sun, a major religious symbol of the Nordic Bronze Age. Moreover, they were often buried in large numbers alongside other objects such as rings and discs, also made of gold, suggesting these might have been offerings to gods or ancestors, buried for safekeeping or as a ritual sacrifice to ensure prosperity or divine favor. To this day, however, we're still not entirely sure. Number 1. Oracle Bones, Ancient Chinese Divination. There are a lot of bizarre artifacts and small trinkets that archaeologists have previously discovered in the past. One of the most mysterious, however, are the oracle bones. Oracle bones are pieces of turtle shells or animal bones, usually from oxen, used by the ancient Chinese to predict the future. Although it sounds bizarre, divination is something that ancient people dabbled in. Oracle bones were used 3,000 years ago, and the array of questions ranged from the weather to childbirth to essentially anything under the sun. Using them is quite simple. After inscribing the bones with your chosen question, the diviner would apply intense heat to the bone with a metal rod until it cracks. These cracks would then be interpreted as answers from their ancestors or deities. To this day, however, there are still a lot of questions regarding this practice. How did oracle bones begin, and did they have any other uses? Luckily for us, ancient China left behind a lot of written records, so in time we might learn more about the bones. So what do you think about these discoveries? Let me know in the comments down below. Also check out our other cool videos showing up on the screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video.